I've only seen a movie. Yeah.
Ashley Martin and her mother, Frances Wise, are in Charlotte now.
We're currently in a hotel.
But Saturday morning, they were here at Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport, where their original flight to Charlotte was delayed for a reason they still can't believe.
What did you think?
Oh my gosh.
Neither knew it at the time, but a group of officers showed up here to arrest their pilot for murder. One of the victims was found shot to death in his home. 2 others were found in a burned-up car in a cornfield miles away.
On the docket tonight, the next live trial you're going to see right here on your front row seat to justice. And yes, it involves a pilot, American Airlines pilot. Could you imagine you're at the airport? There he is. You're about to take off, but you can't because your pilot gets handcuffed. Not for drunk piloting of a plane. We've covered that trial before, but for murder. And not of 1 people, but of 3 people. There they are. These are the victims. Calvin "Cal" Phillips, found shot in his home November 15. His wife, Pamela Phillips, and Edward Danzero, they were also found dead, but Pamela and Edward were found dead a few miles away in a burned-up car. And again, this former pilot is the one accused of his murder. Okay, have we got you intrigued? There's a lot to this story. There are a lot of layers, and we could spend 3 hours trying to peel them back. But we're going to bring in Court TV legal correspondent Julie Janae and not get all the way in, but let's get enough in so people understand what this next big trial is all about. So you've got a pilot accused of triple murder, and what is going on here, Julia?
Vinny, this is the case of Kentucky versus Christian Martin. He is facing those triple murder charges of his neighbors. All 3 of those people, Calvin Phillips, or rather they are all neighbors. And the connection to him is something that took many years to piece together. The timeline alone in this case is incredible. These killings happened in November of 2015, and it took 4 years before an arrest of Christian Martin. He was initially detained and questioned about his connection to these 3 people and to their murders, but ultimately was not charged until there was more information, more evidence that was found, and there were a lot of calls from the family of these victims to get this investigation moving. Let's look at what he is actually charged with. So 3 counts of murder in this case for the deaths of Calvin Phillips, his wife Pamela Phillips, and their neighbor Edward Danzero. Also 2 counts of burglary for breaking into the Phillips home and carrying this out. Also 1 count of arson because of that torched car that they found the bodies of Pamela Phillips and Edward Danzero in, and an attempted arson for trying to burn down the building where Calvin Phillips was found, his home in a cellar. Also 3 counts of tampering with evidence because the criminal complaint in this case says that he made that attempt to burn up and destroy all 3 bodies in this case.
Okay, so when we talk about motive, I want to play for folks at home a statement made by Matt Phillips. This is the son of 2 of the victims, talking about why he believes his parents were killed.
Your father, as we mentioned in the setup to this, was set to testify in the pilot's court-martial case. Do you know what your father was planning to say?
You know, what my father was planning to convey was actually conveyed. He handed over pictures of a sub-16-year-old boy who had been beaten violently, choked multiple times. He had those pictures that he handed over. He also handed over discs that contained classified information that never should have left an Army post. And really, all of those things came out without their deaths. I will say that Martin was dishonorably discharged. He is, in my view, not a military veteran. He was shamefully kicked out of the military. My father had a lot to do with that. And I think we should all be thankful for that, frankly.
Unbelievable. So there's a court-martial taking place against Kit Martin, or Christian Kit Martin, who's the defendant in this murder case, and that is related, they believe, to the motive for the murder here.
Because Calvin Phillips was set to be a witness at that court-martial. Christopher Martin, or Christian Martin rather, was not in jail. He was out free waiting for these proceedings to go forward. And These are allegations that also involved Martin's ex-wife. She accused him of assaulting not only her, but also her children. You also heard the son of the victim mentioning highly classified information that Martin was accused of leaking or sharing that he was not supposed to. So all of that was going on at this court martial that was set just a few weeks after these murders happened. So Calvin Phillips never able to actually testify, and ultimately Martin was found guilty of simple assault and sharing that highly classified information, but something that was much lower of a level than what he was actually charged with, according to the Courier-Journal there in Louisville, that he received 90 days in jail for that, and he was also dismissed from the military dishonorably, and that led to him being a commercial airline pilot rather than being that Army major there on the base at Fort Campbell.
Unbelievable. So he's got problems with classified information he's not supposed to have. He's accused of abusing children. His neighbor is going to be a witness against him. The neighbor ends up dead, but two other people, the neighbor's wife ends up dead, and their neighbor in that burned out car. Now, Matt Phillips, again, the son, spoke about that, and that's kind of puzzling, right? Because they weren't set to testify against him. Let's see what he had to say.
If this pilot's issue was indeed with your father, who, as we mentioned, was set to testify, why your mother and the neighbor as well?
You know, I think you're talking about a person who doesn't think logically. I don't think a normal human being thinks about murdering anyone. So that's a question that maybe someone can ask Kit Martin. What I would say is that he did what he did, and we have to go forward and have justice come out of it.
And you had mentioned that there's an ex-wife in the mix here as well, right? So when we get to this trial, she's a potential witness, right? Because you're going to have to talk about the alleged motive here, and if she has evidence related to that, you could have this case within a case again, like we've experienced in other trials.
That is another legal twist and turn in this case. The ex-wife of the defendant, Joan Harmon, is someone who was very much involved in that court-martial case. And it was one of the reasons that Christian Martin was very upset with what was going on in his life. He actually hired a national coalition of men, a group that is there to help men or defend them when they are accused of crimes against children, sexual abuse crimes. And he said that, she was doing this because she was vindictive, because she was mad that he had divorced her. He divorced her because he found out that she was actually already married before they got married. And he, in turn, went to authorities on her for bigamy, which she ended up facing charges on as well. So there are twists and turns to this case. It will be interesting to see what actually comes out in front of this jury.
Okay. Just so you heard what you heard, Christian Martin, the defendant in a triple murder case who was being court-martialed and was allegedly going after one of the witnesses and then kills the neighbor and the wife of one of the witnesses, his wife was facing charges for bigamy. Wow. There's a lot to this, I told you. By the way, in that mugshot, if we could put it up one more time, we just have to point this out to everybody, the mugshot of the defendant. It's not his official picture that he took as a pilot. That's his mugshot because he was arrested right before he was going to take off to the Caribbean. Or, no, he's going to North Carolina, I think. He's going to North Carolina. Unbelievable. All right. Julie Janae, thank you so much. She'll be in Kentucky for all of this, and we've got some dates for you. June 1st, final hearing. June 2nd, jury selection. That's right after this weekend. We're starting it up on Tuesday.